Hey guys, this is going to be a bit of a longer video. I want to talk about something that's really impacting my life right now, postpartum depression. I have a history of depression, so I had a higher risk of developing postpartum depression after each birth. However, I've given birth 3 times, and this is the first time I have had postpartum depression. I have had the baby blues with all 3 births, which is like a small mini depression that irons itself out around week 6. Quick primer, postpartum depression is just like any other depression, but it comes around after the birth of a baby. So depression can manifest itself in a myriad of different ways. Not eating, overeating, not sleeping all the time. Literally, like, my food doesn't have taste right now. It's just all like cardboard in my mouth. I feel really overwhelmed all of the time. I cry at the littlest thing, whether it's a happy thing or a sad thing. I have a hard time keeping my self-control, and I have like bouts of rage that I don't normally have. So it really impacts your life, and depression, whether it's postpartum or clinical depression, is as dangerous as any physical disease. And it needs to be treated like any other disease. You need to seek help from a medical professional, usually a family doctor, an OB, who will write you a referral to a therapist, psychologist, and psychiatrist. Sometimes the family doctor or the OB will go ahead and prescribe an SSRI or an SSNI, which are medicines that change the balance of certain chemicals in your brain, like serotonin and neuroepinephrine, to be specific. And these just make you tired, so if you're not sleeping, you can sleep. So people really underestimate the importance of both medication and therapy when trying to recover from depression. The people who have the best and the longest recoveries, because you will always be prone to redeveloping depression once you have been diagnosed with it. The people who recover the fastest, the longest, and the most stable are people who both do medication and therapy. So there are also lifestyle changes that you can make that will increase the chances of you recovering from depression, whether it's regular or postpartum depression. Watching exercise and what you're eating and making sure to get enough sleep and drink enough water are all very important, but will not cure depression on its own. And the reason those things are all very important is because depression is at least partly dependent upon the balance of chemicals in your brain. That's what SSRIs and SSNIs do. They increase the concentration of serotonin in your brain. So anything that will help balance those chemicals in your brain will help you recover. Now, people say, religion helped them recover. Great, but it's not for everybody. Not everybody, religion won't help. Getting out in nature more, some people say. I'm sorry I rolled my eyes because I've heard that so much. You're depressed, go outside and get a walk. Yes, going outside and getting a walk is going to be great. It is going to help my mood immediately and probably for the rest of the day. However, that is not going to teach my brain to balance those chemicals without the aid of either therapy or medication, or in the best case scenario, both. Okay, so that's a little primer on depression. Actually, I forgot something. Another thing people don't realize is that depression often comes hand in hand with things like OCD and anxiety. Okay, and that can make depression even harder to treat, because not only do you feel very overwhelmed, like you can't do anything, like you'll never be able to do anything right, like everything is too hard, like people are going to laugh at you if you tell them that you're depressed because you have absolutely no reason in your life to be depressed. Anxiety can make it even worse, because now you're sitting here and you can't let go of the thought that trying to get help is just going to make everything worse. In reality, trying to get help can make everything worse, because sometimes the medication that you're put on needs to be adjusted the dose needs to be increased or decreased, or you need a completely different medication, or maybe you're an SSRI and you need to be on an SSNI. And so there are just so many things that you have to be patient with and you have to be willing to play around with in order to find the best combination for you. So even though you might start your treatment, say in January, you may not actually find a treatment that works until the next January or 6 months later, or, and the reason for that is because you need to take a medication for at least 4 weeks in order to know exactly what the benefits are and what the drawbacks are. You will not know exactly what side effects come from your medication until you've been on it 4 weeks. So I went when Carol Jean, she's 2.5 months old now, I went to the doctor for postpartum depression the week she turned 6 weeks old. And I started taking Zoloft. And Zoloft for about the first 2 weeks was awesome. I noticed a decrease in my sex drive, which is a very normal thing for SSRIs, but I was sleeping better. I mean, I didn't have a problem sleeping before, but I was sleeping deeper. And then, I didn't have any anxiety. I really wasn't even feeling any depression. Then around the 3rd week, I started feeling really bad anxiety, like I was about 1 step away from a panic attack every minute of every day. And I started getting really bad nightmares, so I switched my Zoloft from taking it at night to taking it during the day. That helped the nightmares, but now I was sleepy all day, and I was having even worse anxiety because instead of sleeping through the worst part of my anxiety when the Zoloft was at the highest concentration in my body, I started being awake for it. So after the 4 weeks, I've quit taking it, and I'm still waiting on my referral and my next doctor's appointment to be able to try something different. I will talk to the doctor. I might try taking half the Zoloft, or I might try taking a completely different medication. I don't know. So let me tell you how postpartum depression affects my life directly and how I interact with my children. So my 10-year-old's doing school. I lose my mind over little things that I should not have. And I have to remember that I can't control Connor's reaction, but I can control mine. So I stopped doing school with him and gave him the day off because I knew that he's not going to learn anything if my mind's not in the right place. So I apologized to him. And it was very hard to apologize to him because I didn't want to admit that I had treated him unfairly. But I had, so I made sure. I see you playing with the snake. Yes, very scary snakes. So I made sure to look him straight in the eye and tell him that I was sorry and that I had treated him unfairly and that I needed to take responsibility for my actions, which meant apologizing and recognizing that I had treated him wrong. Now, because we're not doing school today does not mean he's not working today. He is cleaning the bathroom today and going to clean his room, both of which needed to be done very badly and both of which are his responsibility. So, I've also had times in the past where putting the kids down for to bed, I could not do it. My 2-year-old AJ, my little girl, and my 3-year-old son, Caden, they're kind of hard to get down at night. I mean, they're toddlers, preschoolers age. Naps are not what they want to do, especially when they're tired, because then it's even worse. I see that snake. Wow, so scary, snake. Go have it fight the T-Rex. And I'm very adamant about putting the children down for bed by myself because it's a nice, peaceful, quiet time. I can lay down and just, twiddle on my phone, and I don't really get a lot of time to do that when they're up and around. And, I can edit videos and, gather ideas and get that kind of stuff organized and work out my calendar for the week when we're all laying down together. And I've had a couple of times where I have lost it. I have ended up screaming and crying. The children have ended up screaming and crying. And I've had to call their dad in and just be like, I'm sorry, I can't do it tonight. Can you please put them down? Which, sometimes when you have depression, you just have to do that. But I've had a couple of people in real life, well, I don't want to say in real life, but offline, I've had a couple of people ask me, why I want to keep having children if I have a tendency to be depressed and a higher risk of developing postpartum depression. And the answer is simply that no matter how hard life is, I don't want those hardships to make decisions for me. I want to be in control of my life and not my depression. And the hard things are usually what's most worth doing. And for me, that's very true. I cannot see anything else in the world as being more worthwhile than raising my children and being very active in their lives and having them here with me. Now, saying that does not mean I never need a break. I love to have my breaks and have an adult conversation and sit down and watch a whole 30-minute TV show without being interrupted. And, you know, YouTube videos and that kind of stuff. And I love to write, and I love to read, and I don't get much chance to do those things when I have young children. And, you know, having depression makes it even harder, because I could do all of those things if I could manage my time better, but depression makes it very hard to manage your time. It makes you for me, it makes me want to sleep a lot. So, and if I don't get enough sleep, it makes me very, very cranky. And I think that was the crux of the problem this morning, was I didn't get enough sleep last night, and I had to deal with it this morning, and my mind was not in the right place to let me deal with it in a mature and quiet way, like I try to model for my children. So, summary, I have kids and want to have more kids, even though I have postpartum depression and a higher likelihood of developing postpartum depression as I go on, because I love my children and I love the time I spend with them, even the hard times like right now. And Ada's about to come in here screaming. And so why don't you tell me in the comments if you've ever had postpartum depression. Alright, sorry about the background change. I've got to get dinner started, but I wanted to say that I've got some links to some helpful postpartum depression websites down at the bottom in the down in the description below. So take some time to check those out. You know, familiarize yourself with the signs and how to get help, and comment what your experience with postpartum depression has been, even if you've never had it. Comment if you've had any of the baby blues and would like to talk about those. Like, share, and subscribe.